Our focus is erotic innocence, life force activation, and the release of shame. Because the truth is, our turned on energy is our aliveness.
There's so many women that I work with, and they say they feel flat, even when everything looks like it's fine on the outside.
I had a client just in the last couple of weeks where it wasn't, it had to do with an intimate partner, but they had a very, very honest conversation.
When you tune into the sensations and listen to your body's yes and experiment with that, allow it to be gentle.
Asking a question to yourself in the journal and practicing being with yourself and hearing what might come back, and then journaling and writing about that. Welcome back to the Healing You Method podcast, where we explore the intersection of trauma healing, embodied presence, and reclaiming our wholeness, one breath, one truth, and one choice at a time. I'm Gail Donahue, co-host and companion with Gloria Lybecker on this journey. And today we're exploring a topic that might make some of us squirm just a little, or maybe a lot. And that's exactly why we're talking about it. Our focus is erotic innocence, life force activation, and the release of shame. Because the truth is, our turned on energy is our aliveness. It's not just about sexuality, it's about creativity, it's about playfulness, it's about joy. And for so many high achieving, heart centered women, it's the last resource we allow ourselves to touch.
Mhm.
So, Gloria, let's start here. Why do you think pleasure is so often the last resource we grant ourselves, especially for women who've experienced trauma or lived in survival mode for many years?
That's a really powerful question, Gail, and it's one that's really deeply personal for myself. And in my experience, we've internalized a deep cultural and a generational shame around pleasure itself, especially embodied life affirming pleasure. We're taught to see worthiness, with sacrifice, productivity, or self denial. And so pleasure becomes indulgent or suspicious and even dangerous. It was like forbidden. And when trauma disconnects us from our bodies, we stop trusting our sensations, or many of us do. We numb out. And then what we can do is we can become very high functioning in the external world, but inside we're really starved for that aliveness. There's so many women that I work with, and they say they feel flat, even when everything looks like it's fine on the outside. I want to acknowledge they're not broken. They're just simply disconnected from the root of their own vitality. Gail, I know you work with women that are navigating these very same waters. What do you see in your coaching practice around that suppression of pleasure?
Well, yeah, yes, so common, so common. And actually, for my example, I'd like to bring it even back to demonstrate how strong this suppression of pleasure is, because
Mm,
we mentioned sexuality and erotic, sexual aliveness and pleasure. I had a client just in the last couple of weeks where it wasn't, it had to do with an intimate partner, but they had a very, very honest conversation. And as my client said, they had never had a conversation like that
mm,
before. They were met with care and met with being okay, but their nervous system afterwards went into a bit of a reaction because they weren't used to, even with a simple conversation. Mind you, it was about intimate matters, but a conversation about intimate matters, they their nervous system wasn't allowing them to even
mm.
relax with a conversation. So
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up just to help our listeners here. how impactful this suppression of pleasure can be to the point of conversations. Having honest, tender conversations can be.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah,
just intercede right there. The whole thing is it just highlights that example highlights how the key phrase I heard was not allowed. They're not allowed to have these conversations. And that goes back again to our unconscious belief systems, how those unconsciously run us, and there's certain things that we just do not believe they're viable. And it's that belief system that then it actually drives our behavior, our thought patterns, our emotions, and we just get carried away with it. Unless we are able to work with somebody that can recognize that and help us to slow it down, because so many times, I'm sure you find this too, people they recognize that what's familiar, they think that's safety, and it's not.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Our bodies are used to it, so we go to it, and we need to pause enough to be able to check in with ourselves and ask, oh, is this safety or is this just really what I'm used to? Because so often safety, we don't really know what that feels like.
Well, and sometimes, or I know it was for me, to pause.
Mm.
Why do you want me to pause? It's like that wasn't even safe,
Yeah, yeah,
that wasn't familiar. It's like, oh, I'm in trouble now.
yeah.
Something like that is like, ooh. And so, being very gentle with it, recognizing we all have these patterns. Not everyone talks about them. We all have them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had interrupted you, so I wasn't quite sure if you were complete with sharing your
Okay.
example.
Yeah, well, so just to make sure that I summarize it well enough, is the fact that her body was experiencing some joy with this conversation that was going so well, and her body was feeling heard, her body was feeling like she mattered. So it was, you know, eliminating some of these standard beliefs that were there. So she was accessing some joy.
Yeah.
And then later on, that shutdown started to happen. Oh, that anxiety, the panic, because it was a bit much there to be accessing that joy. But so this is an example of a conversation this can be operating. So it just demonstrates how slow and gentle it's important to go and take so much
Mhm.
care and be with so much safety.
Yeah, and this here too is so it gets really exciting here because when we begin to reclaim that turn on energy, we can begin to start seeing magic unfold in other areas of our life, which brings me to the next question, Gail. How do you see turned on energy, this full body yes, translate into things like business own innovation or leadership clarity?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question too. Um, I think there's well, there's some joy and pleasure in what you're doing. It's not a drudgery or a struggle. You wake up with energy and wanting to like dive into things
Yeah,
with
looking forward to
excitement.
it.
Yeah, yeah, you look you look forward to it. Yeah, just like you might look forward to having some sexual pleasure as well. Yes, it is something that brings you energy. You maybe you didn't have a great sleep the night before, but when you start connecting with yourself and realizing what you have choices to do, and you make choices from your heart about what you want to do, and you're in that safety zone, you energy is just there. It's sort of like an infinite source of energy that you can access.
Yeah, for
That's
me,
a little bit for me.
yeah. Well, it's like fuel. That's what made me think of when you were talking. It's like go juice, it's fuel. So
Mhm.
when I'm in alignment with my pleasure and my creative life force, I find that I'm taking bolder actions. And I
Mhm.
actually magnetize aligned clients that get it. They're like excited about it and ideas flow. So then it's not a grind, it's inspired momentum.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go from zero to full fire. Like you said, it starts gently.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does, yeah. And um, Gloria, do you have something like that you offer your clients when they're talking about wanting to access more and not have this flatness feeling for themselves? Do you have a go-to practice?
Well, the first one typically would go to is just start by slowing down, like we were talking about, placing a hand over your heart, and then tune in and ask yourself, what would feel good for me right now? Right now. And it might be stretching. Perhaps it's swaying to music, sipping something warm, watching the sunrise. It's truly not about performance. It's about becoming present with your own sense of self. When you tune into the sensations and listen to your body's yes and experiment with that, allow it to be gentle and more familiar to you to actually accompany your own body.
Mhm.
Gail, do you have a go-to practice you offer when somebody says, I feel nothing in this area?
Yeah. Well, what you just described, safety is paramount. It's so, so important. And then a couple of other things that I support my clients with is really getting a sense in their body of what is a real yes and what is a no, and being able to have a voice to speak that
Mm,
in ways and feeling the safety so that they can then express it and be in a better place to hear what might be coming back to them,
yeah.
because um we can only work with us, but what we do does have an impact on the others. But you never know for sure what someone else is going to do or say in response to you. So it's important. We always are very, very clear that we're taking care of ourselves and honoring ourselves. Another practice that is important is that we want to deconnect the shame
Mhm.
pattern that can be there related to the talking about sexuality and pleasure and play, just plain play and joy,
Mhm.
and then access that aliveness. And a simple thing that can help for some people is journaling about it
Mm,
and thinking about, asking a question to yourself in the journal and practicing being with yourself and hearing what might come back, and then journaling and writing about that
mhm. Yeah,
would
those
be
are
a
great.
practice that can be supportive for people.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
This conversation is just the beginning. So reclaiming erotic innocence, it's not about becoming someone new. It truly is about remembering you've always been beneath that shame, beneath that shutdown, and beneath those survival patterns. It's a way of welcoming yourself back home.
Mm, yeah, so true. And next week, we will be continuing the journey with a powerful episode on communication that regulates, speaking from the heart, not from the alarm.
Mhm.
Because once we reconnect with our life force, we also need safe, aligned ways to share it with words that bring us closer, not walls that shut us down. So we invite you to follow us and subscribe and share this with a friend who needs a little more aliveness in their life. Until next time, take a deep breath and remember you are already whole, and
We'll
we'll
see you
see you
next week.
next week.
Thanks, Gail.